What's up, hustlers? Welcome back. It's Andrew Morgans, founder of Marknology, here as today's host of Startup Hustle, covering all things e-com, entrepreneurship, startups, D2C, Amazon, marketplaces, you name it. This is our spot to have these conversations and share value with you guys each and every week. Today, we're going to be talking about how to master your monthly bookkeeping. And I have an old friend and colleague and e-com expert himself in the space. Before I make an intro, today's episode of Startup Hustle is powered by Fullscale.io. Hiring software developers is difficult. Fullscale can help you build a software team quickly and affordably, and has a platform to help you manage that team. Visit Fullscale.io to learn more. Nathan Hirsch, welcome to the show.
Andrew, thanks for having me. I was telling you before, I have a kid due next week. This is my last podcast for a few months until I learn how to keep a baby alive. But kind of blows my mind that people listening to this, I might be a dad in the future. So it's wild.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. I was taking a few minutes before the show too, just telling Nathan, I think it's one of the most natural callings of a man is to be a father, and I think it's beautiful. So thanks for being on the show and giving us a little bit of your time before you don't have any time to give. I know it'll be a little bit of a whirlwind, but we'll keep the mother-in-law at bay and hopefully bring some Startup Hustle listeners some value today.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, I love starting the show traditionally, getting to know a little bit about Nathan, letting the listeners kind of know your background before we get into EcomBalance and just bookkeeping in your business and how to line that stuff out. How did you get to where you are today? Has it been multiple startups? Did you know from a kid you wanted to be an entrepreneur? You wanted to be in business? Where's your story begin? I know you just recently moved to Colorado too, so location is as well. You've had some moves and changes. Where's your story begin, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, my parents were both teachers, and I grew up middle class, not poor, not rich, and I went to school with a lot of friends that were very wealthy. They had parents who were doctors, lawyers, dentists, and my parents from a young age always made me get a job and work for everything that I wanted. If I wanted a video game, a bike, eventually a car, I had to pay for it myself, and I think that gave me a strong work ethic, and I learned a lot of skills like sales and customer service. But I also learned that I just hated working for other people. And I saw entrepreneurship as a way to be the boss and take ownership and kind of control my own destiny. So I ended up going to college, got a degree, and met my business partner there, but never really used it. I started an Amazon business out of my college dorm room, buying and selling textbooks. Got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off and stop competing with their bookstore. And that was my first glimpse into being an entrepreneur. And I started experimenting. This was 2008, 2009. Amazon was just becoming more than a bookstore, and I was drop shipping years before I even knew it was called drop shipping. That word didn't even exist. I built all these relationships with hundreds of manufacturers in the US. They didn't understand e-commerce. They didn't know that they could just go and sell it themselves. And I would sell the product, send them an email where to ship the product. They'd have my credit card on file and charge me, and I'd make the markup. And my partner Connor and I, we sold $25 million from about 2008 to 2016, and the early wild west of Amazon, where you can do anything, and there wasn't that much competition. Now, growing that business, we struggled to hire. College kids were super unreliable, and we were 20. We didn't think we could hire adults. So that brought us to the world of virtual assistants. And as Amazon became more competitive, and keep in mind at the beginning, we thought we were going to take down Amazon and be the next e-commerce giant, we started to offer these VAs and freelancers to other Amazon sellers. And all of a sudden, networking and conferences and Facebook groups became a thing. And we turned that into our own marketplace to compete with Upwork and Fiverr, called FreeUp. And FreeUp was a lot of fun. It was our first B2B business. We got to learn marketing and podcasts and partnerships and SEO and all the stuff that goes into it, and controlling our own website and not being dependent on Amazon. And we scaled that business from a $5,000 investment to doing about $12 million a year before we were acquired in 2019, which is a whole other story we can dive into if you want. And bookkeeping was a big part of it. And the original plan after we exited was to travel the world and take a year off, but we sold it in November 2019, and COVID hit a few months later. So we were in a super weird spot with no company, and all we had done with 4 years was brainstorm on FreeUp. We had no business ideas, and a buddy, I think you know Nate McAllister, he gave us the idea for outsource school where we would teach people our hiring process, how we interview, onboard, train, and manage, give people all of our SOPs that they could just plug into their business. And we've been running outsource school for years and have a great community of entrepreneurs that we teach to hire better and to reduce turnover. And that bought us even more time to just brainstorm ideas over the next few years. And we have a goal now of building a portfolio of what we call boring businesses, things that people don't necessarily like hiring, like bookkeeping. We have two bookkeeping brands, EcomBalance and Accounts Balance, one for e-commerce sellers, one for agencies. We're working on a content SEO high end service because we put out a ton of content and we're pretty good at that. So we're always beta testing new ideas and building there. But that's the long short story of how I became an entrepreneur and what we've been working on.
Serial entrepreneur is, I think, the word, Nathan. You're a serial entrepreneur, and was just thinking about those Wild West days. You could put almost anything up, but it was like in regards to being able to just sell anything, and brands not understanding what was happening with wholesaling and reselling and drop shipping. There was also no one that had done it before, so there was no like roadmap to that, and it was so fun. I remember even being in like a car dealership, taking photos of car parts and, creating bundles. Bundles weren't even a thing yet. And I was like doing bundles of like a trailer hitch, a ball mount, the wiring harness, and being like, this is the fit for your truck or your van or whatever. In the Wild West of Amazon, of eBay, of e-com in general, just being a ton of fun. I mean, honestly, I think, PPC for Amazon didn't even come out till 2015.
Nope.
So,
Yeah.
you had an 8-year run there, I think, before people even became aware. And it's very rare, honestly, that I meet people that got into e-commerce or Amazon before me. So you've got me beat by a few years. I think for me it was 2012. So you got me beat there. But it did start with books. I remember reselling my books. Actually, I was buying used books from a website before Amazon. So that was very new to be buying a book from a website online, a used textbook. But I was paying my own way through school. So it was like, yeah, I'll try this weird new thing, that's happening. It was a lot of fun. And free up all the way to, so I actually got my start in the Amazon world because of Upwork. Got top 10 in the world on Upwork when they bought Elance. So
Nice.
very just familiar with like, finding work and that whole process, which is just interesting. And then in outsource school, helping people with the VAs. And I love how you turned all of them, instead of just like putting this all inward and keeping it all inward to build something massive, turning each one into a turnkey solution for others to help others. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I've been talking about specifically, I think, like, knowing your numbers, bookkeeping, like EcomBalance, which we're going to talk about today, is just so, 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 so important. Like I'm writing content for LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube and webinars, and everything on my mind is profitability and looking to educate owners and brand owners around, you have to know your numbers. Taking 2 seconds on this because I want to lay the groundwork a little bit for what we're going to talk about. In 2020, before the pandemic, I was part of a Goldman Sachs. It's called the 10KSB program out of Babson College in Boston. And, you have to be a business with I think 10 employees, at least 3 years old, a certain amount of revenue, maybe $1 million in revenue or something, to be in the program. So it wasn't like an incubator from scratch, but it was very much like an incubator, an accelerator, a business accelerator. And I went in there, and as a business owner, a lot of times you don't get a lot of validation on if you're doing the right thing or not. Should I be focused on sales? Should I be focused on process? Should I be focused on, training and scaling my team? Should I be focused on Facebook, or should it be TikTok, or should it be Instagram, or should it be Google Ads? No one's really validating your moves other than the results, and it can be a thankless job. Well, for me, the accelerator was a huge validation thing. Just like, okay, I'm doing the right things in digital marketing. Okay, I'm doing the right things in inbound marketing. Okay, I'm doing the right things in scaling my team. Okay, I'm doing the right things in. But one area I had a lot of insecurity with was finance. And it wasn't that I didn't know how to manage a budget or my business wasn't doing well. It was that I was insecure around terminology, vernacular, like how tech speak, so to speak, like how to speak to some of those things. I had a partner that started the business with me. I bought her out. like a couple years into the business, but she had helped me get everything kind of started. And so whenever I bought the business from her to take complete ownership, I just kind of took over what she had been doing in the books, like, and didn't want to change anything, didn't want to mess anything up. I'm just like, let's keep it going. But that was, and this is, I'm an agency, so this wasn't as an e-com brand, right? This was as an agency. But going to that Babson College, the 10KSB, the Goldman Sachs program, I left feeling empowered to ask my bookkeepers, my CPAs, the people like, that were helping me in my business, the questions I needed to ask, I didn't know how to ask. And I just felt empowered to be like, look, I don't have to know everything to come in and say, hey, I wish this looked like this. Hey, I wish that this was grouped together with this so that I could get a good perspective of my warehouse costs. Oh, I wish that there was a way I could see revenue per brand that I'm working with, or, revenue per employee, or these different things I wish I knew, but that I didn't know how to ask. And so I was insecure to do so. And so was holding my business back. And I just remember the moment, like, I mean, that time period as being, I came back from that, and I believe Marknology changed in a great way for the better. I mean, my books are amazing. I actually got audited last year, and they owed me $41. So it's
Nice.
not a lot, but it was more of a moral victory, in a lot of ways. But when you're feeling that great about your books, or like just being iron tight and being able to make good decisions for your business, it's all the difference in the world as a leader. So I know it took me a second, but I just wanted to lay, like, how valuable I really, really, really feel like this conversation is. And in how, like, as a leader, there's no way you can direct your business if you don't really understand what's happening inside your business. And so many brands will come to me and say, hey, Andrew, we're not making money on Amazon, or we're not profitable, or I got my bookkeeper, like, my bookkeeper sent me a statement. How can this be possible? We're doing 50,000 in sales. Like, how are we negative? And I need to be able to say, okay, I hear what you were told, or I hear what you're saying. Let's get into the numbers. Let's look at profitability. Let's look at the books together and really see what area of the business needs our attention. Um, I'm sure it was running your own brands that really brought this idea kind of to life, and seeing what people like, understanding VAs, how they were helping you with different things and not other things, and how you do that. Talk to me about just the birth of EcomBalance, like, with you and your partner, and what was kind of the driving force at the beginning for creating it?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of take a step back. So, like a lot of entrepreneurs, when I started, bookkeeping was the last thing on my mind. And with the Amazon business, I was doing books myself eventually, and just wasting time every single month. And I didn't do it correctly, so my CPA just had to redo everything and charge me to do that at the end of every year. Then I tried hiring college kids. My business partner, Connor, his first job was doing QuickBooks, and he wasn't a bookkeeper either. So I just wasted time and money there. And again, had to pay someone to fix it all at the end of the year. Then I tried just not doing it and dumping it on my CPA at the end of every year, and didn't really know how my business was doing it until the end. Then I tried quarterly and hiring a bookkeeper quarterly, and I realized it was too late to make any decisions. By the time I learned anything, 3 months had passed. And then finally, I said, okay, I need a good monthly bookkeeping process where after the month ends, by the 15th, I get my books, I review them, and I make decisions on them. And that really helped us scale our Amazon business. Fast forward ahead, when we started FreeUp, we said we are hiring a bookkeeper from day one. We are not making that mistake again. And we hired a great bookkeeper, Marius, one of the best bookkeepers I've ever, or best hires I've ever made. And that alone was one of the best business decisions we ever made, because even before we were super profitable or making a lot of money, we or super profitable or growing, I should say, we knew what the numbers were. We could make decisions. Hey, we need more PPC freelancers on the platform. We need more customer service VAs, like fixed prices, working better than hourly, whatever. So we every single month we were making good decisions, and that helped us scale from 5,000 to $5,000 investment to 1 million to 5 million to 9 million to 12 million. And then when we went to sell the company, we had 4 years of immaculate books going back to the first day. And that helped us pass due diligence, earn a lot of trust with the buyers, obviously have a life-changing exit. So that was just a lesson that we learned. So down the line, when we're brainstorming business ideas, we kept going back to, hey, like, we love the finance space. Connor and I like personal finance a lot. We like business finance a lot, but we just know how important bookkeeping was. And if you're being honest, like, most business owners don't sell their company. Most business owners don't get funding. They don't get investment. yes, like monthly books makes tax season less stressful, but the real reason to do bookkeeping is to decision making. You don't just
Mm.
make decisions off like some dream you had or gut or because you see money going into your bank account. You make it based on what your reports and actual numbers are saying every single month, and that's how you run a business. So Connor and I kind of learned that the hard way, like a lot of entrepreneurs, and we're kind of on a mission to help people not do that and have clean books going forward so they know how their business is doing and can make decisions off of that.
It's so important. And it's crazy how the more important something is, or the more we avoid it sometimes if we don't know exactly how to tackle it, and what could be more important than your cash flow? Understanding your cash flow, understanding, if you've got a great D2C brand, off Amazon, there's so much data you can get essentially to understand what's my conversion rate, what's my AOV, what's my customer lifetime value, these are like e-commerce KPIs. But from getting all of that data, you can then predict, okay, if we do 2 emails a month and we do 4 guest posts and we do 2 podcast interviews and we do, spend 1,500 in Google ads and this, we know that we get this return on average. Like if you've been in business long enough. And so from there, you can then predict, okay, we need to have this much supplies. We need to have this much product on hand. We need to, we need this many content creators. We need, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think the goal of being a good leader or CEO is making as many good decisions as possible, the right decisions, right? Not right or wrong, but good decisions. And that's making them quickly. And by having data and metrics to help you make the right decisions, you shouldn't have to be going by gut. I think so many times when your books aren't right, you can be great and have great instincts, but you're making gut decisions and that can only go so long. You can make better decisions using your gut and data, And so for me, I'm speaking to the choir because I'm telling you, I wanted to start with my story of just being insecure about talking about these subjects. I could sit in a room and understand what was going on if they broke it down to me into plain English. If they were talking like, all the abbreviations and ARR or MMR and I'm like, what is this? I was just, insecure about it. But knowing it and feeling confident about it, it's funny how that then becomes something that you're very passionate about because you understood what kind of change that made for you in your business. I know for a lot of bookkeepers, ecom is difficulty level high for bookkeepers and accountants, just in comparison to, like, let's say an agency or a service-based business where we might have a couple hundred transactions a month. In an agency, I don't know, 1,000, but you could have 20,000 in an ecom business, or 100,000. Let's talk a little bit about what some of those differences are and like some of the pain points of, I guess, solving for ecom. For me, it comes to like the 2-week payouts and, some of that stuff. What are some of the main problems, I guess, that you guys have helped solve for when ecom brands are coming and asking for help?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with marketplaces, right? Walmart's different than eBay, different than Amazon. And what we've learned is you can't really connect from the marketplaces to QuickBooks or Xero, which are the only 2 bookkeeping softwares you should use. But you need a connecting tool. Link My Books, A2X, those are the 2 that we use. And you have to be able to break down all the different fees that come in. A lot of bookkeepers that don't understand e-commerce, the top line of your income statement is the deposit that goes into your bank account. That's not correct. There's sales, refunds, returns, all the different fees in there before the net that's deposited in your bank account. So step 1 is sorting that out and making sure that you are accounting for each marketplace's fees, mappings, all of that kind of stuff. And that's a great way to just understand if your bookkeeper actually understands e-commerce. So starts with that, and then you get into accrual versus cash. Most e-commerce businesses need to be under accrual, even though you should talk to your CPA about that. Don't make that decision yourself. But if you think about it, like if you buy $50,000 worth of inventory, January is going to look pretty bad if all of that's showing up on January, but you're selling it over the next 6 months. If you're doing it accrual based, those sales are going to go with the actual, or those purchases are going to go when you actually sell it, and you're going to have a much more accurate idea of how much money you're making every single month. Now, most e-commerce sellers just need to accrue sales and cost of goods sold, and they don't have enough expenses in there to justify accruing those. But even just accruing sales and cost of goods sold gives you a much better picture, and not all bookkeepers are designed to do that. And the last thing I'll kind of say there is just segmenting your books. You want to know, are you making more money on Walmart or on eBay? If you're selling on Amazon UK, is that a waste of time or something you should be doing? And there are a lot of sellers who are on marketplaces and spending a lot of time, energy, and resources that aren't worth those returns. So that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. Just like if you're running an agency and you were selling PPC services and SEO services, you want to know which one is more profitable.
Yeah, let's talk about that a second. As I'm an agency and I own brands, I'm kind of fitting in both shoes. And, it's definitely not easy to get to if you don't know how to communicate this to your bookkeeper, even what you want or what you need, they might not have an ecom background or an agency background. They're not going to know what data you need to see or what KPIs matter for your business unless you tell them. And if you're insecure like I was, you don't know where to start in beginning to have those conversations. I spent more time trying to understand what was already there in QuickBooks from the person that set it up before me, and like what I should be learning about this or that, or why they organize it this way or that way, instead of being like, I can get this arranged in a way that makes sense to me so that I can make actionable decisions in my business. That sounds so easy. That was like a huge roadblock for me. Simply understanding how to communicate those needs, because I wasn't with a bookkeeper or a CPA that already understood it and knew what I needed ahead of time. So I don't think everybody's going to be like, okay, I'm just going to switch my bookkeeper and my CPA to EcomBalance because they know everything about ecom or agency, and that's going to solve all my problems, because those moves are big, because people are loyal, whatever. But you either have to figure out how to get your bookkeeper or CPA on board and on the same page as what you need, and that has to be through communication, being able to explain what those things are and having the knowledge, or you need to go find a partner that already knows these things that can help you get to where you need to be. It's been probably a 3-year journey for me to get to the level of detail that I'd like to be at in my business, which is segmenting the warehouse. First it starts out with warehouse income, warehouse expenses when you start a new venture, and then it's okay, packing supplies, and now I'm getting my labor down there, and now I'm getting, if I've got any referrals or software fees broken down. Now it's just not just software fees, but software fees broken down by department, so I can assign those to the different ones to see, okay, we only have these softwares in my agency because of the warehouse need or because of a PPC need or because of whatever. I want to assign those costs to those divisions, so to speak. And it starts out very generic and gets granular. But you talked about ways that you're working with ecom businesses. What are some of the things that you think are a lot of agencies that you guys are working with like really struggle to dial in without an agency bookkeeper?
Yeah. So let's kind of take a step back for a second. First of all, you should have a monthly finance meeting on your calendar every single month. And you don't miss that meeting for any reason. It's the most important meeting you have every month because that's the meeting that you're making decisions at. So you should have a good process where the month ends. By the 10th or the 15th, you get your books, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and you have this meeting on your calendar where with your partner, your team leader, your CPA, whoever you want to go through with, you go through income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, line by line. And if anyone wants my agenda, you can go to ecombalance.com/agenda. And it's the same meeting Connor and I have had for 6 years. You're looking at this month, you're comparing it to last month, you're comparing it to the same month last year. You're looking at certain margins like profit margin, what trend what direction are these going? Are your margins going up over time or down over time? And that's where you're making decisions on your business. So that's a big key there. And then the other side of it, before you even get started, is that proper setup. We talked about having like A2X or Link My Books if you're an e-commerce seller. If you're a business owner in general, you need QuickBooks Online or Xero. You don't want to use the GoDaddies of the world. You're just going to outgrow them and have to move all your data later. And you're going to struggle to find bookkeepers that actually use those softwares if you ever want to switch. And you want to be careful of like the benches and the final loops of the world, because not to bash my competitors, but they're the only ones that use that software. So if you ever want to get off of them, no one else uses those software. And again, you're going to have to pay for all your data to be moved, or you're going to have all your data in two separate places. So QuickBooks Online or Xero, pick one or the other. Everyone has their pros and cons, but those are the only two you should consider. And we live in 2023. So QuickBooks on desktop, not a great option unless you're really going to have a bookkeeper go into your office and do the work for the rest of your life. And then it goes into the bank accounts and credit cards. I'm not a huge fan of profit first. I've never had an issue like holding money for taxes. In my opinion, simpler is better. You don't need 12 bank accounts to run your business, especially early on. So keep it to one or two bank accounts, one or two credit cards. Make it easy. Like for e-commerce, one credit card is all inventory. One credit card is everything else. Makes it pretty easy for everyone, and you don't have to go through stuff every month. And make sure you're not intermingling personal and business. Hopefully, people listening know that. You'll get in a lot of trouble with the IRS and lose all the protection from your liability. But you also don't want personal cards that are just used for business, because that doesn't allow view-only access for your bookkeeper. So you want to have a business credit card, business checking account, business savings account, whatever you set up, and you need to make sure those banks have a view-only access feature to your bookkeeper. You don't want to give your bookkeeper full access to your bank account, just like you don't want your bookkeeper to own your QuickBooks Online account. You want to be the owner to protect yourself. So
This would be.
there are,
I want to interrupt right
yeah,
there just for a second, because I think there's some learnings there. I think it can matter too if you're got a local bookkeeper, right, or you've got an overseas bookkeeper. Not saying there's not pros and cons to one, but like I can go down to my bookkeeper's office and they're going to be there. Like, if they're in my bank accounts doing crazy stuff or different things like that, we can sit down. If you're working remote or virtually, I think even better reason to be like extra secure, maybe creating separate emails for these types of things and just creating some separation between something super important like a bank account or information. It took me a year and a half. You're talking about setup. And I think this is really great you're talking about it, because I'm in a sales course. Just to relate, I'm in a sales course, and no one really talks about all of the technical integrations that really go into a great outbound sales team. It's actually like pretty integrated, from like getting your domains all set up, and masked and clouded, and like getting your automation set up and your integrations with LinkedIn Nav and Apollo. And everyone's just like, yeah, all right, sales, let's talk about sales. I'm like, well, there's this whole integration piece that if this isn't set up at first, nothing else will matter. Like kind of a race car. Everyone just thinks about the race, not like the car being built that makes the race, a thing. So back to what you're talking about just like the setup, the tech stack, making sure that everything's in line, so that it's like almost like if you're going to ask for help, make it easy for someone to help you, and like don't get yourself in a bind in that way. I think that's just like super great. On the Amazon side, we would do exactly the same. You're creating unique email addresses that aren't getting cross-contaminated. You're making sure that you own it. Marknology has always been, we're not going to like buy the inventory and sell it for you. Kind of like in the older model, I wanted to work as the brand under their account because I knew it was the best thing for them. We're building this brand as your account, and we have view or access in that way. Okay, so you were talking about just like making sure you're with a bank that has the right type of permissions. It took me a year and a half to switch from a bank, like a local bank that was like just really friendly to me when I was starting my business, to a different local bank, but a bigger one that had basically all of the online features that I needed. Like I could wire transfer, I could ACH, automation, I could like do everything online, get great reports online. It took me a year and a half to move over. I wish I had just started with picking a right bank or picking a right partner.
yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, it's a pain to switch banks, but in 6 months, you're going to be happy that you did. And the real reason for view only access is you don't want to have to download statements every month and send it to your bookkeeper. You want your bookkeeper to have view only access to your banks and credit cards. And it's one less thing you have to do every single month. And if you go on vacation, let's say early in the month, your books aren't delayed because you weren't there to send statements. So the proper setup is important. It's going to save everyone time. So really focus on that. And I mean, if you're an agency, we kind of already talked about segmentation, like really break down your services and make sure your bookkeeper is clear of what the different things you offer. If you start a new service, you're telling your bookkeeper so that they can segment and have the right chart of accounts. And we have sample reports too. If you go to ecombalance.com/report or accountsbalance.com/report, you can see what a good report looks like: income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, but more importantly, the actual chart of accounts. Because if you think of a chart of account as like every line item you have in your business, like a poor chart of account could be too small, right? All expenses put together. That doesn't tell you anything. Tough to make decisions on that. Or too many expenses where you could group everything into office supplies instead of having 10 different kinds of office supplies, because you don't want your income statement to be 20 pages long. So all keeping that, even if you're not going to use my service, take a look at those reports. And that's a great way to be like, hey, I like this, or I want to move this line up here because that tells me something different. But have a good standard for an agency or for an e-commerce seller where you know what you're looking for every single month.
I think that's amazing, and we'll have to get the guide back in the show notes. I might have to follow up with you, just those two links that you suggested over, because if anyone's like me and they don't know, maybe they don't have a bookkeeper internally and they're still doing their books. I wanted to know where my budget was and my money was like every single day. So for a long time, I had a hard time handing it completely off, because that's where my business was. We didn't have that type of surplus in our bank account, where I just really needed to know. You have a hard time handing that off. Well, knowing what good looks like is a great starting point to be like, you know what, mine doesn't look like this. I know that much. And so that can be a starting point to say, okay, what do I need to do to get to this? So thank you for offering that. We'll list it one more time in the show notes for anyone listening. Before I go into the next part, Nathan, shout out again to our sponsor, Fullscale.io. Finding expert software developers doesn't have to be difficult, especially when you visit Fullscale.io, where you can build a software team quickly and affordably. Use the Fullscale platform to define your technical needs and then see what available developers, testers, and leaders are ready to join your team. Visit Fullscale.io to learn more. Okay, back to you. We were talking essentially about being able to segment out those things. What came to my mind was every single month I get a breakdown of Amazon expenses. Okay, so Amazon doesn't give a lot of clarity into what those purchases are, but I do a lot of my business spending on Amazon. So I've got, $501 here, $240 here, $33 here. Not everything is in these chunks. And some of it is office supplies, some of it's warehouse supplies, some of it's, photography equipment, some of it's cleaning supplies. It's all different kinds of stuff, even if it's just for the business and I'm not mingling them. How granular do you need it broken down to, right?
Yeah, I mean, that can depend. I'm always a big fan of simpler is best. So that's something that like a good bookkeeping service, and hopefully ours falls in there. Like you have a kickoff call with our team. So we have our standard chart of accounts that we use for agencies, we use for commerce, we use for real estate, whatever. And then we go through your business and make tweaks based on one, what makes sense, and two, what's important to the client. What do they want to see every single month? What do they want to keep track of? And what are like the unique characteristics of your business? So that's a great conversation to have with your bookkeeper. I feel like a lot of bookkeepers skip a step. They get all the access they need and they get started with the bookkeeping and they show you it once it's done. It's way better to get on the same page up front and have an example of a chart of accounts and make any tweaks before you really get into it, because it's a pain to kind of go backwards and fix everything.
I love it. I love it. Talk to me about the importance. Might be a wild card for you. I don't know if you've heard this in a while, but one challenge I've had this year is working with more international brands, and a couple of them are very large brands. In some cases, like a conglomerate out of Indonesia of food brands. I have had to go through more paperwork than I knew of in education around that, and there's an expense involved in that, right? So I'm losing money on that client by having to have my bookkeeper and all these people, it was like a certificate of residency and just some different things. It was right at the beginning of the year. So it was like, did it for 2022, having to do it for 2023 each and every year. Just some things that were unknown. What are some of the things, do you have international clients, I guess, on either end? And what are some of the challenges that you've seen or that are common or that, that revolve around that?
Yeah, keep in mind, we don't do tax. You should have a local tax professional in any country that you're selling on. But bookkeeping is bookkeeping. It's generally accepted accounting principles. We have clients all over the world. Now, we work directly with their tax person, and that's super important because if the tax person has a certain thing they need done or a certain thing that we need to be aware of, we need to have those communication channels open. So, yeah, that's kind of my advice, is to make sure you have a separate bookkeeper and CPA. Your CPA focuses on tax, and you should have a tax person in any country you're in, and make sure your bookkeeper and CPA are in communication. It blows my mind sometimes where the CPA doesn't talk to the bookkeeper until the end of the year. They should be CC'd on emails. Like, clients give their CPA access to our client portal. We upload everything. If there's something we need to change or something we need to be aware of, because obviously we're not experts in like Germany tax law, it's usually pretty simple as long as we get the information from that tax person.
I love it. And most advisors or mentors would tell you like having a CPA on your board of advisors or someone in finance on your board of advisors is critical. So having them, you've got your legal, you've got your tax and finance, maybe you've got any other number of PR, whoever you've got on your board of advisors. If you go that route, I have an unofficial board of advisors, but you know super super important that they're talking. And I can tell you, I love my CPA. She's been with me since the beginning. Like, she's helped me do my books since the beginning. But they had no idea about ecom. We've grown together. They didn't know crap about it. Didn't understand agency life either. They work with roofing companies and lawyer companies, and service-based companies are pretty straightforward. So it was definitely a learning curve. I can speak from experience. Like, there weren't EcomBalance wasn't a thing, as an option. Um, and she's helped me through a bunch, but we had issues like being on QuickBooks Desktop at the beginning. And then moving to QuickBooks Online, because that didn't make any sense. And every now and then I've got to be, reach out and be like, hey guys, is this communication happening? Like, I have to be proactive about it and make sure that all my teams are talking, because, they're business owners too, taking trips, losses in the family or births in the family or family events like that. And it's just super, super critical that they're talking, so that you can make the best decisions possible. If you're making, database data-driven decisions off of inaccurate data because certain teams aren't talking, it can be the difference in, thousands of dollars for your business at the end of the year. And, having that advice where your books are current, you're coming into November, December, if you don't know exactly where you're at, you're not going to be able to say, hey, maybe we need to make these big purchases before the end of the year, so they can be tax deductible or different things like that. It just gives you so much ammunition that you don't even really know about until you know about it. You don't know what you don't know. And it's a constant learning for me. I just bought 2 more tax books off of Bigger Pockets, just because there's so much to learn. I've been in business as an entrepreneur 9 years. I'm in an M&A class. I'm trying to learn about exits and all that kind of stuff. And every single conversation revolves around your books.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the core to your business, and just like hiring with outsource school. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to learn how to hire. There's no way around it. There's very few solo 7-figure entrepreneurs out there. Same thing with bookkeeping. Like, you can scramble and kind of makeshift it for a little bit, but at some point you're going to outgrow that, and it's going to seriously hurt you. And you don't want to get to the end of the year and hire someone to go back 12 months. No one is doing that in 2 weeks. It's going to take them months to do it. We sold the company. It was the most stressful 6 months of my life. And that's with clean, immaculate books. There are people that get to the end, they want to sell their company, and then they have to hire a bookkeeper to go back and do 3 years. Again, that's going to take months and months and only add to it. And you're going to lose a lot of trust with the buyers. So the time to clean up your books and get on a good monthly process is now. And down the line at 6 months, whatever it is, you're going to be really happy you did it. And once you get into that good monthly process where the month ends and you're about to get reports and how that month went and make decisions off of it, you wonder how you ever lived without it, because that's really the lifeblood of everything that you're doing as a business owner. You're busting it all month. You're hiring people, you're training people, and then you're seeing the fruits of the labor in those monthly reports, and also deciding how much to pay yourself, what to invest back in the company, if you want to invest more in hiring, whatever it is.
Who deserves raises, right? Instead of just like going off your
Exactly.
gut, you can tie revenue to certain employees or to certain brands. You could have a small brand be like, let's get rid of these small brands as an agency, and be making more per brand on those than you are on some of the big ones. And if you just don't have your bookkeeping correct, there's no way of knowing that. It's a gut. Well, this one's 8,000 a month and this one's 1,500 a month. Well, maybe that 1,500 a month is on cruise control, right? And you have a highly efficient worker on that brand. They're not having to do much else. They take a couple calls, make a couple changes in PPC, relatively low. You're tracking hours, and hey man, we're making the $1,500. We're clearing, $700. And in the $8,000 a month one, you're not even noticing that it's taken 8 employees' time and staying overtime, and their quality of life's going down. And you just can't make those decisions if you're just really looking at the end of the day, 8,000 versus 1,500. So it affects everything. And if you're going to go get money, because if you're going to the bank to go get financing or anything like that in your business too, the quality of your books really speaks volumes for you as a business.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it, like if you have loans or anything like that, the banks are going to ask for things on a yearly basis and you have to be able to deliver. And you don't want to lie to the bank or give them inaccurate information. That's going to crush you. So, yeah, I mean, there's tons of reasons to just have a good monthly process with a reliable bookkeeper that you know you're going to get it on time each month, and it's going to really help your business.
I love it. Nathan, this has been amazing. Um, as we kind of wrap up on the episode, let's finish with just two questions I love to ask. One, what's something you're working on in the business or a different business that you're excited about? Just something like, as you know, we're in the second half of the year, something in your personal life you're excited about outside of fatherhood. Okay, so I'm gonna make you work for this one. Something in your personal life, whether it's fitness, travel, music, guitar. You know, what's something that you're moving toward, or that's new that you're pumped about?
Yeah. So business wise, if anyone here is following Connor Gillivan on LinkedIn, my business partner, if you're not, go do it. He's an SEO whiz. He handles that part of the business. He's been crushing SEO for all of our companies for years and years, and we've been just brainstorming about launching an SEO business where we'll put out 10 to 30 super high quality, keyword heavy blog articles every single month for larger businesses. And we've just been waiting for the right person to run the business. We want someone who can run ops, who knows SEO, who can manage that company. And we finally found someone, ironically, right before I was about to have a kid. So we hired that person and we're launching it. It's called Trio SEO. If anyone wants to get on the wait
Okay.
list on our site, and we're excited to do the same thing we've done for all of our brands for other companies out there, and looking for some beta clients now. I don't know if we'll already have that by the time people listening, but with any company, we're a big fan of minimum viable product, get it out there, prove the concept, and then grow from there. So that's exciting from a business side. From a personal side, I'm a big just proponent of working out and doing HIIT workouts. I do 1 hour intense HIIT workouts pretty much every day, and it's always been a dream of mine to have my own gym. So I mentioned to you, we're redoing our basement. That's towards the end of it. It's kind of a race against the clock, basement versus baby right now. But I will have a gym in my basement that I'll be able to work out in, and I have a bunch of friends that are into it as well. And it's a lot better than just I don't know. I used to live in a condo and I'd like work out in the kitchen, so I've kind of been through it all. It'll be nice to have my own space.
No, that'll be amazing. If I come to Denver, you'll have to run me through a workout. I'll try not to die.
Sounds
Um,
good.
where were you at before Denver?
So I grew up in Massachusetts, and then moved to Florida after college. And we ran free up in Florida. We thought real estate was cheap and it was easy to live, and it was a good place for a startup. It was a great place to exit a company without state taxes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we sold it, COVID hit. We were kind of stuck there with no business, and my partner had moved to Colorado, and I convinced my wife to do it, and then my whole family followed. So now we're all in Colorado.
I love it. I love it. I was just saying Colorado's got to be a good spot to work out. There's a lot of different options, you know, from biking to hiking to all of the above. So it's super amazing. I really appreciate your time, Nathan. It's been awesome having you on the show. One last time, where can people get in contact with you? I know we've talked about a lot of businesses. You got a lot going on. You and your partner, where can they follow you on LinkedIn? Where can they follow you? Your websites? What's your go-to?
Yeah, Nathan Hirsch on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to just check out a bunch of free resources I have, you can go to outsourceschool.com/Nathan, and we have a bunch of stuff there for you that you can grab. And yeah, appreciate you guys listening. If I can help you in any way that has nothing to do with hiring or bookkeeping, feel free to hit me up.
Okay. And lastly, one last thing, on accountsbalance.com, and EcomBalance, where were those links for people to get a free checklist, or what a good example of a report look like?
Yeah, so if you go to ecombalance.com/report or accountsbalance.com/report, the accounts balance one is an agency report. EcomBalance is an e-commerce report. And then agenda, either one, accountsbalance.com/agenda or ecombalance.com/agenda.
I love it. Thank you, Nathan. Thanks again to our sponsor, Fullscale.io. Do you need to hire software engineers, testers, or leaders? Let Fullscale help. They have the people and the platform to help you build and manage a team of experts. When you visit Fullscale.io, all you need to do is answer a few questions, then let the platform match you up with fully vetted, high experienced team of software engineers, testers, and leaders. At Fullscale, they specialize in building long-term teams that work only for you. Learn more when you visit Fullscale.io. Thanks again to Fullscale, our sponsors, making these podcasts possible. I love giving you guys value. Nathan delivered today. Thanks again for being on the show, and congratulations on the new one.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in Denver soon.
All right, guys. See you next time, hustlers.